Hi, everyone. So on March 4th, Monday, when we usually have our 6 to 7:30 Zazen meditation with a discussion, this March 4th, we will instead be offering Alex Jacobson an opportunity to share with us, to teach us a little bit about what he knows about the situation in Israel and Palestine and there has been, as if you've been following the news at all for the past few months, there has been a lot about Israel and Palestine, about Gaza, about the Gaza Strip, whether the United States should be supporting Israel or should the United States be doing something else? Should we be refraining from supporting Israel? And these are questions that have come up for a lot of us in our Sangha, and people have asked specifically to how do we address them? What do we do about them? What do we do about this situation that's been going on in the Middle East? And if you've studied history at all, you know that this issue is actually much deeper than just the past few months. We are lucky to have with us a member that's been coming fairly regularly to our Sangha events, Alex Jacobson, who can share about his perspective, not just about living in the in Israel as a tour guide, but also he comes from a Jewish perspective, and he's planning to share that perspective. So this session, Monday, March 4th, will be an opportunity for our Sangha, for our members, for those who participate in this event. This is going to be a closed event. So if you've signed up for it, you will be a part of it, and it's assuming you've listened to this particular video. But what this event is for us, is to practice. It's an opportunity to practice what's called deep listening. It's not a chance for us to voice our opinions, to raise doubts, to argue, to disagree. It's a practice of deep listening. So what I'd like to do as part of the preparation for this event is to look at some of the writings of Thich Nhat Hanh on deep listening. So I will share my screen. And I should say also that when you are listening deeply to somebody else, this is not an easy practice to do. There may be things that come up for you that are difficult to process. And the event on March 4th is not the time for us to process those things that are coming up for you, but to practice deep listening. So let's look at what is entailed with deep listening. So I pulled this up from the Plum Village, the Plum Village app, and I would strongly encourage you to look at it yourself. Basically, it's the website is Plum Village app / the fourth mindfulness training, deep listening, and loving speech. That's where this comes from. Okay. And this post says these are excerpts from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The Heart of the Buddha's Teachings. And I'm using his work here on deep listening because I find it very helpful for my own practice. And I think it's something that we should, in general, strive to practice if we want to be serious about not just ending our own suffering, but helping others to lessen their suffering. Because my experience has been when I'm able to have the presence of mind to practice listening deeply to somebody else when they're suffering, then it helps them. It helps that person. Now, if somebody is saying something directed towards something that I did that was difficult for them, still, the practice of deep listening, it's not easy to do, But that is our practice. And it's not that we're successful at it all the time, but we strive to be so. So let's find out what it means. Like, how do we do this? All right. So I'm just going to read through some of these things and make comments as I go. And I would encourage you to reflect on this on your own time prior to this meeting that we'll be having with Alex. The teachings of the Buddha were not to escape from life, but to help us relate to ourselves and the world as thoroughly as possible. The Noble Eightfold Path includes right speech and right livelihood. These teachings are for people in the world who have to communicate with each other and earn a living. Notice that I am deliberately reading this slowly. This is not something that we want to rush through. It's not something we can comprehend just by reading quickly and getting it in our intellect. I want us, as we're reading through this together, hopefully we're doing that together now, to read through it slowly and really let it penetrate your heart. Listen, practice listening as I'm speaking. This is part of the practice of deep listening. It's not to rush ahead and find out, oh, what's that say? Let me read it all quickly. You've got to create time to practice deep listening. You've got to settle your mind. So let's look at how it's written in the fourth mindfulness training. Originally, this teaching of right speech, it's entitled Right Speech, has to do simply with not lying. That's what the Buddha said, right? If you want to practice with me, don't lie. Thich Nhat Hanh has expanded on what it means, on what right speech means. And you cannot have right speech without deep listening. So he says, aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I am committed to cultivating loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and relieve others of their suffering. So by practicing deep listening, we can relieve others from their suffering if we're successful at it. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I am determined to speak truthfully with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news that I do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. This is very important because with regards to the situation in Israel, between Israel and Palestine, we're not getting a full picture. We're getting clips from the news, and we get people on one side of the issue, we get people on the other side of the issue. We don't have a full view of everything. We need to study this. We need to study this and continue to learn. This is the practice. This is what's important, I think. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or the community to break. I am determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. We tend to want to solve the big problems, right? Here we get a news blast about a situation that is so overwhelmingly big. And we have it takes a lot of ego to think that we can change that. Like you individually can do something about that. This is a much deeper problem than any one individual can do to solve. So we need to focus on what we can do, not on what is impossible. And if you're watching the news, I would really encourage you to limit how much you watch, because especially if you have feelings of despair, the news is not going to help you with that. The news exists to sell news. And if it ain't bad news, it ain't getting sold. So let's listen to what we actually can do in this situation. Let's listen. Maybe we can help one person here. And this is true not just for this conflict in Israel and Palestine, but for anybody that we're having a difficult time communicating with in our life. All right, so I'm just going to read a little bit of this. Deep listening is at the foundation of right speech. If we cannot listen mindfully, we cannot practice right speech. No matter what we say, it will not be mindful because we'll be speaking only our own ideas and not in response to the other person. In the Lotus Sutra, we are advised to look and listen with eyes of compassion. Compassionate listening brings about healing. That's really a profound thing to think about. When we can really listen deeply to somebody else who's suffering, we can bring about healing for that person. When someone listens to us this way, we feel some relief right away. A good therapist always practices deep, compassionate listening. We have to learn to do the same in order to heal the people we love and restore communication with them. All right? When communication is cut off, we all suffer. When no one listens to us or understands us, we become like a bomb ready to explode. Restoring communication is an urgent task. All right? So I would encourage those who are reading along with me right now to continue to read this and to reflect on it. Reflect on what's being said here. You can see it goes into quite a lot. And to continue to explore what this practice of deep listening is. Deep listening may not, when we're practicing deep listening, it may not seem like we're doing anything. Right? We're not actively seeing any results concretely, right? There may be no visible change in an external way. But our aim is not to resolve some huge situation, but to help one single person, right? That's what our aim here in this particular workshop will be, right? So please continue to study deep listening. I will include a link to the webpage I just read from and ask you to read it thoroughly, read it slowly, and think it through. And then lastly, to be prepared to practice deep listening on March 4th when we listen to what Alex has to say. Thank you so much for your time, and let's practice. Let's do it. Let's do the best we can. Thank you.